on day one, your voice is already a little scratchy at CES, but I'm going to do my best, so hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I just wanted to introduce a few slides and then really looking forward to talking with Jeremy, who's back this afternoon. So hopefully we can show a few of those slides. Is there a way to advance the slides other than pressing the green button? There we go. Come. Oh, it's only working on one side. Okay. So we can all look over there. So just a little bit about Fitbit. If you haven't heard about Fitbit yet, come see us downstairs. But we are the leader in the connected health and fitness space. But really what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is some of our mission, which is data, guidance, and inspiration for individuals. And then specifically, my area of the business that I run is the corporate division. So bringing the consumer technology into the corporate marketplace. So we're going to start with a little bit of inspiration, and then Jeremy and I will hopefully talk about some of that guidance and data. There we go. So a little bit about the inspiration. This is a video of a client of Fitbit's called IU Health, Indiana University Health, and hopefully it'll roll in just a second. And this, actually this video is a really great testimonial about the social aspect of Fitbit and what we do on the corporate side. So I'm at, I think, 9,000 something, so I have a little bit more to go today. But what I like sharing about that video is that you're taking a consumer technology that people are interested in and really want to use, and you're bringing it into a corporate marketplace and really changing the water cooler conversation within an organization. And that social aspect is really important. So you heard one of my favorite people is Brett Broviac, who was mentioned and spoke in the piece there, where he was talking about he walks 1 million steps a month. That's over 30,000 steps a day, which is the equivalent of running a half marathon every single day. And he walks them, so it takes like 4 hours. So he's really motivated and social, but what it's done for his behavior and how it's become part of his lifestyle. He not only did that once over the course of the year, he did that 3 times in the course of a year. And he came close a number of the other months. So he's really made it into a lifestyle, which has allowed him to lower his A1C levels back into a normal range. He was pre-diabetic. He's lost 10% of his body weight. So over time, it has had a lasting impact on his behavior. There he is there. And that also proliferates around the whole culture of the organization. So he inspires others, and there were others that inspired him, because it was his daughter and a guy that worked on a different campus for Indiana University Health who actually challenged him to the one-on-one competition. And that's what's really motivating. That social aspect and the community aspect is really what makes Fitbit, and the social aspect is really what makes the behavior change long term. So that's a little bit of the data that you're seeing. We wanted to talk a little bit more about data and the social aspect. So 91% of users say that Fitbit motivates them to be more active. So we are connecting people. So just as we all know that you're likely to get up at 6 a.m. every morning if you have a workout buddy, or you're likely to take that walk time lunch if you're meeting someone, it's how do you build that social aspect in a virtual community with someone. And you know, the way that I do this is I have people who are aspirational. There's a guy in our office, he's a triathlete. You also have people who you can compete with. My sister's that for me, where I can compete with her, all in the same ecosystem. So I've got a colleague and a friend and a family member all in the same ecosystem, which is really what makes it special. And I'm also proud to introduce that we're also bringing this into the corporate marketplace. So we've had a corporate program for about, since the beginning of Fitbit, actually. We were hearing that from employers, and one of the most requested features we're hearing from employers is around corporate challenges. So the ability to take that one-on-one competition where you and I are competing for 10,000 steps, but really make that a collaborative environment within the organization where we're all spending so much of our day. So we're really excited to debut this, and we're starting to use it with clients now. And it's a great way to motivate folks throughout the year, as you saw with the IU Health. So that's all I wanted to share today formally. Just wanted to share a little bit of background around the corporate side of our business, which isn't quite as well known as the consumer side. And then really looking forward to talking with you, Jeremy.
Come join me.
All right.
I'm trying to wrap my head around 30,000 steps a day.
It is a lot.
I did 10,000 yesterday, and I almost died. it killed me.
That was just back and forth to your hotel room, right? Because that's about what it takes in
I
Vegas.
can't walk that many in a day. So I think this is a fantastic program. I think the concept of a company going beyond just selling a product is a wonderful one, and Fitbit helping out employers to try to motivate the employees is a wonderful thing. What do you think motivated Fitbit to start thinking about this? Is that just, you think it's a common thing these days for companies to think beyond the initial sales?
So I think that we were actually very fortunate. So I was at Fitbit at the very beginning, so back in 2008 when the first products were launching in 2009, and it was actually the employers that were coming to us. So they were hearing, they weren't getting strong engagement, they were getting very low participation in their programs, and it was because it was hard. Who wants to wear a pedometer, have to write down their steps every day, submit it to an HR person who has to put it into an Excel spreadsheet? I mean, it was just difficult. It wasn't fun. And for an employee, it was you're asking them to add to their workload. You weren't taking anything or inspiring them in any way. So the way it actually came to be is it was actually driven by these early adopter employers who said, here's what our challenges are and how can you help us with those? So that's really where it came to be, and I think what we've seen is, as a mission, again, we're all about providing that inspiration and the guidance to help you reach those, and how do you do that in little steps, right? So is it a walking meeting? Is it taking the stairs instead of the elevator? It's all those little things that'll add up to those big results.
So do you work with small companies and big companies, or is it just these giant enterprises?
Absolutely. So we actually work across all segments and all verticals. So we work with more than 70 of the Fortune 500, but we also work with lots of small businesses, mom and pop businesses, mid-sized companies of a couple hundred people who are just getting started with wellness. So this might be their first foray. We work with a number of companies who are really distributed, as a lot of companies are today, throughout the country or the globe. And how do you bring those together? They can't take advantage of an on-site fitness center because that's not part of their culture. But they might be really engaged in how do we connect them back with each other. And as we move to more of a telecommuting workforce, people being distributed in an organization, it's a great way to bring people back around a common goal.
We don't need a telecommuting workforce. We need a workforce that walks 30,000 steps every day.
We do need that.
Walk back and forth. So the $1 million question then, so what have you guys learned? Have you learned about certain things that work to motivate employees versus things that don't work? Are the competition type programs the best way?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the biggest, and this is a very general statement, but the biggest thing you can do is tie it back into the culture of the organization. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. Fitness is very personal. So everything from giving the individual the choice about what tracker they want to wear. So do you want the pink one? Do you want the Tory Burch one? What model do you like and what works for you and where are you with your goals? And then also just what's the culture of that organization. In our organization, we have the cheesiest 5-foot gold trophy you have ever seen. And that's what motivates our employees. If you win that trophy, you have bragging rights for the whole month, and the teams take pictures around it, and it becomes a big thing. In a law firm, it might be a casual Friday. Not having to wear their suits is a big deal for them, right? So tying it into the culture and the organization is really important. It could be corporate social responsibility if that's a really big thing within an organization. So how do you tie it back to the goals and the timing of the organization? But we do find that collaborative and competitive challenges tend to be a very popular way to keep people motivated. Doing them on a frequency that is regular, but not ongoing. So who wants to be in a challenge every day and then every month and starting it over and over again? But how can you mix that up? So it's just like it is with exercise. How do you add variety? How do you add motivation? How do you mix it up? Collaborative, competitive. How can you do even something like a sleep challenge? So not who can sleep the most, but can most companies sleep can most individuals try to get between 7 to 9 hours a night, right? Something like that, because the impacts on productivity, risk, safety, all of those factors are really important.
And have you found that corporate programs to motivate employees lead to lifestyle change? It's something that actually fuels people bringing this into their weekends and into their personal lives?
Absolutely. So we've seen, and oftentimes part of our program that we offer is actually a friends and family program because we know that that's really motivating. So you might be motivated by your colleagues, but the next month when you're going to do your new workout class or you need that variety, it might be your sister or your husband that brings you into that. So the friends and family aspect and that social collaboration is actually a part of the corporate program for that reason, because we know that those who have friends on Fitbit are more active. And they're going to take more steps. And for every friend that you add, you're going to add to that both the longevity of use as well as just the activity level on a daily basis, because you've got that built-in support network.
So when you're talking about a corporate program like this, how do you define success? Is it getting people to do 30,000 steps, the ultimate high goal, or is it just a general sense of well-being, or just generally motivating people a little bit? Like, how do you?
Sure.
What's the metrics?
Yeah, there's lots of metrics of success, and just for the record, I don't do 30,000 steps a day either.
28, 29.
But I do try to get over 10. But the metrics of success really depend on the company and where they are in their evolution and journey to health with their employees, right? So we really look at the value on investment, which includes ROI. So we do have companies that have successfully reduced their healthcare spends because they're showing that they have an active and well population. But we also have populations who are in a highly competitive environment. Let's take engineering in San Francisco. And how do you get, how do you differentiate yourself in a crowded marketplace? So acquisition of new employees, retention of employees, loyalty to the company, those are all important metrics for some. When we work with oil and gas, safety is a top priority for them. So we all know that getting adequate exercise, what you eat, how you sleep is important for safety. So each metric is really in tune with what the priorities and the goals are of the company. And I think the keys to success is part of that culture of health is really tying it back to the business goals of the organization, because ultimately better health equals better business. So how do you tie those goals together?
Are a lot of companies actually handing out devices? That's part of the whole program, right? You have to hand out the Fitbit or whatever it happens to be to someone.
So you as an HR manager, you probably don't want to get 10,000 devices delivered to an office and have to figure out how to distribute those.
Right.
So Fitbit actually helps with that, so all that logistics. But what we're seeing primarily is employers are offering them in a couple of different ways. One might be an incentive or a reward. So if they were looking for someone to complete a health screening or a health risk assessment, perhaps instead of a $50 gift card that they might go take to Olive Garden, why don't they, no offense against Olive Garden, they have healthy things on the menu, but where would, maybe you make that part of a lifestyle change and give them a Fitbit and then run a challenge and make it part of the cycle. So that's one common way we see them used.
Is my boss here? Are you hearing this? We should all be getting Fitbits.
We need to get a Fitbit program, that's right. Cost sharing is also really popular, so there are a lot of employers who want the employee to also have some skin in the game, and the consumerism of healthcare and taking charge of their own health. So that's also a really common method that we see where employees and employers are sharing, meaning the employer is subsidizing the cost of the tracker, and then the employee is paying a portion as well. So they both have that shared commitment to health.
So recently announced device, the Blaze, I think it's called?
That's right.
So that's tracking a lot of additional information, right? There's more than just the step counting, right? Is that something that you're looking to bring into these programs? Are we doing more and trying to expand them beyond just, we saw a lot of step counting there, but there's a lot more to health as well, right?
Absolutely. So I think as sensors get smarter, it allows us to do, and as we have more anonymized data that we can use, we're able to make our technology be that much smarter. So we've recently released things across our range of devices, things like the ability to auto-detect sleep. So in our previous models, you had to kind of tap it and let you know, hey, I'm going to sleep now. And then you would go to sleep and have to do it again in the morning. Now, with the amount of data that we have access to, we're able to detect that automatically. And the same thing with certain types of exercise. So beyond steps, if you do other types of exercise, yoga or elliptical or things like that, we can auto-recognize that. So I think sensor technology.
Do yoga. Believe me.
Should we do a downward dog or something on stage? But so, I think we are seeing people use a lot more of the sensor technology, which is going to allow you to add more variety into the corporate programs. And then I think that same variety, again, fitness is personal, so you really want to allow your employee to choose the device that's where they are in their journey, right? So you have people who are couch potatoes who are just getting off the couch, and what they need for motivation and information is different from the person who's already running marathons on the weekend. So that same consumerism of choice, bringing that into the corporate marketplace is really what's making it special and different. Because up until this point, you did one thing for work and you did one thing for home, and they didn't talk to each other at all.
Right.
And so that's part of that supportive ecosystem that's been built.
So I ask about the other types of data because a part of what we've been hearing all day is the challenges of privacy. When you have information like this that's being gathered, where does it go? And it becomes particularly challenging or sensitive, I guess I should say, when you have a company that's knowing not just how many steps you've taken, but when you went to sleep last night.
Sure.
Is that something that you guys take into account when you work out these programs?
Absolutely. So privacy is paramount for Fitbit overall. So we have a very strong and easy to read and friendly language around consumer privacy. And then additionally, if you're in a corporate program, you actually have to opt into that program. Okay. So there's not a requirement for you to share your data. It's an opt-in program, and then only a limited amount of the data is actually shared. So your employer would never see what you ate for breakfast. Or your individual sleep habits and data. They would only see that at an aggregate level. And you would only opt into individual level data like steps and distance and active minutes, and if it's designed to an individual reward incentive. So if, like our British Petroleum is a program that we've worked with, if you walk 1 million steps a year, you're put into, which is about 6,000 steps a day, not that many. It sounds much better that way. But 1 million steps a year, then you are put into eligible for a lower cost healthcare the next year. So you might be motivated to do that because if you know you're going to walk 6,000 steps a day, do you want to share that data? And there's actually been some consumer research that shows that about more than 70% of employees are willing to share that day in exchange for something like a healthcare premium reduction.
You were telling me about some of the social pieces of the puzzle as well before. Can you tell our audience a little bit about how you guys work that in?
Absolutely. So social is a really important piece of Fitbit, and I think it really goes much beyond the device. So that can be everything from we do forums and things on the website, and we share success stories. But a lot of it is about those challenges. So you saw the corporate challenges, and corporate challenges really bring company together around business structure. So it might be that the marketing department competes with the operations department. But you can also do that at an individual level. So we have released those on the consumer side as well. So having up to 10 people in a program where you can say, well, we're going to do a weekend warrior challenge, and everybody's going to try and hit a collective goal or a competitive goal. Those are really motivating to people and actually drive real results.
We have Amy for a limited amount of time here, but Fitbit is, of course, a wonderful company. Everyone knows about it. I'm sure you guys have some questions. So if anybody wants to ask a question or two, we're eager to hear what you guys all are interested in learning about.
Thank you. I have a question about the way employers use this data. What are some of the reasons that employers do want to know, even in aggregate, how their workforce eats or sleeps or walks? What do they do with that information?
Sure. So they wouldn't actually get information about what they're eating because we find that we've done a lot of consumer research around what employees are willing to share, and they would only get sleep data in aggregate. One of the reasons, for example, they might want to know about sleep data in aggregate is to promote sleep health. So, for example, if you as an employer and someone in HR know that one of your top prescriptions is Ambien within the organization, and you know that people are having sleep problems, or safety is a big priority for the company because of the type of work that you're doing, mining or oil and gas, et cetera, that might be a priority for your company to keep people safe on the job. So that's a really important reason why they might want sleep data. For activity data, I think there's a lot of different motivations, but it goes back to those who are more active. It's been shown that just by taking a 15-minute walk in the middle of the day, when you come back, you're likely to be more creative and more productive. So just taking that 15 minutes, instead of feeling guilty about leaving your desk, you're actually going to do better work when you come back. So trying to motivate those employees to be able to help them. And then ultimately, again, some of them want some healthcare cost reductions as well. So the motivations vary by the employer and also by the industry.
Thank you. It came across the wires about 2 or 3 hours ago that apparently there's a class action against Fitbit for the inaccuracy of the optical blood flow with the surge and the charge that you guys released last year. And obviously that's very fresh news that only just came out. But I'm intrigued by that. How accurate can you get a wrist-based device, and how much of it's attributable to technology getting better, and how much of it is attributable to physiology, so hey, you can only take it so far?
Sure. So I'm not the research expert, and I'm obviously not able to comment on ongoing litigation, but what I can say is that we have invested very heavily in research over the past 8 years that we've been in in business, and we feel really confident in the data that we provide. Beyond that, I can't really speak to the specifics of it, but we spend a lot on research, and we've actually, I think, tripled our R&D over the last couple of years, and it's a combination of looking at accuracy of data. They're not medical grade devices. They're meant to be consumer devices, but we feel really confident in the data that we've provided.
Thanks for sharing. Just one question. We heard today a couple of times that the actual lifespan of these wristbands, it's around 6 months or so. Do you have some data around that? How long do people usually use these wristbands before they just abandon them?
Sure. I mean, I think we actually see very, very different results, particularly on the corporate side. And again, I think that's where that social collaboration comes in pretty frequently. So again, the more you're motivated and you surround yourself with people who are like-minded, that actually has a bigger impact than your family and your heredity, than the people you're surrounding yourself with day to day. So we actually see, for example, the IU Health one, that has been going on for more than 2 years. And people continue to use it, and it continues to grow every year. And as I mentioned with Brett, he's met that goal, many milestones over the course of the last year and a half, 3 times hitting that 1 million step mark. So we're certainly seeing that people are socially engaging around it. And that's where that social piece and having a very broad ecosystem and making it even easier for people to participate is really important. So wearables, in order to work, have to actually be wearable. They have to be usable, they have to be fun, they have to work out of the box. They can't be too complicated. And so we really work hard, both pre and post launch, to make sure that we make it even easier. So some of those recommendations that I mentioned, the recent launches around the ability to auto-detect exercise and sleep, and some of those things are really ways to help make sure that users continue to be engaged, because it's even easier for them to participate, and then they've got that surrounding community.
Amy, can your voice stand one more?
Absolutely. Don't talk to me tomorrow, though.
Thanks for your presentation. I was just wondering if you could share with us some new innovations that are coming down the pipeline. We've heard that your CEO has talked about coaching and potentially new measurements that could be coming from new devices. So I'm not sure if there's any innovations you can share in the corporate wellness side.
Sure. So, again, the company's mission is all around data, guidance, and inspiration. So I can't speak to specific technology that hasn't been released, but I think you can get an idea from what we've even released here at CES and in the last several months around where we're going. So a lot of it does have to do with guidance and inspiration. So we have a lot of data, and we'll continue to collect data around with additional sensors. But a lot of it is around that inspiration and guidance and that engagement that folks are asking about. And so by giving better and more useful and more meaningful data and giving you the ability to then share that with anyone from a practitioner, maybe it's a healthcare coach or a nutritionist or a personal trainer, or to share it with your company in exchange for some type of motivating competition or a premium differential. I think that's really the direction of where wearables are going, is how do you tie them back into behavior change and things that folks are already doing. So that's where I think you'll continue to see us innovate, in addition to continuing to innovate around the sensor side, and then using the large database of data that we have anonymized now to be able to do things like the auto recognition of activities in sleep.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm sorry, I was going to thank you. I was waiting for my mic to come on. Thank you, Jeremy. Once again, we had level of awesomeness.
Oh,
and
perfect.
Amy, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you.